All right, switch the mic on. It's 1 o'clock. We'll start. Welcome, everybody. I'm Claire Ponton, the Mayor of Mid Coast Council. Members of the public are to attend the... Sorry, I will start again. Members of the public are able to attend the meeting in person or view the meeting live through a web link on Council's website. The meeting is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be placed on Council's website as soon as practical after the meeting. The meeting must not be recorded, distributed or circulated by others without the prior written consent of the Council in accordance with the Council's Code of Meeting Practice. I have to ask you to stand, please. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tongue-speaking people, and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in the Mid Coast Council area. I extend my respect to elders past and present and to all future cultural knowledge holders. Councillors could stay standing, please. We, the councillors of Mid Coast Council, will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the Mid Coast community and will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us under the Local Government Act 1993 to the best of our abilities and judgment. Excuse me. Okay, going to 6.1. Councillor Mel McKenzie has requested a leave of absence from today's meeting. So I will move that the leave of absence sought by Councillor McKenzie be accepted and that leave be granted. Seconder, please. Councillor Graham, all in favour? That is everybody. Thank you. 6.2, in accordance with clause 5.22 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice, Councillor Alan Tickle has requested approval to take part in today's meeting by audio-visual link. I move that Councillor Tickle take part in today's meeting by audio-visual link. A seconder, please. Councillor Wilson, all in favour? Again, everybody, yes, you can vote on that, Councillor Tickle. 7 is the minutes. So I'll move that the minutes of the 29 April 2026 ordinary meeting, copies of which were distributed to councillors, be taken as read and confirmed as a true record of proceedings.
Seconded.
A seconder for that one, please. Councillor Beasley, all in favour? That is everybody. Thank you. Moving to this morning's activities, we had one speaker at the public forum. That was Bruce Parsons, speaking on behalf of Parsons Property Proprietary Limited against item 14.1, the DA at 25 Wall Street, Foster, use of unauthorised works and alterations to existing food and drinks premises. 11, I need to call for councillors and senior staff to declare potential conflicts of interest and their nature. And sorry, I've got some and I haven't written them down. Start with you, Councillor Tickle.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a non-pecuniary less than significant conflict of interest with respect to item 15.1, which is the sponsorship program from Council. The reason for the conflict is I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Tari Manning who has placed an application. I had no involvement with that application for sponsorship, but nonetheless I'm a member. I'm also actively involved with two of the carols celebrations in the area who are also a potential recipient under this award. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Who was next? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 15.1, this is similar as Councillor Tickle. I am a recent member of Rotary on the Manning. That's non-pecuniary, less than significant, and I intend to participate. I have not attended a meeting formally yet. The other one is item 14.6, revised economic development strategy, non-pecuniary, less than significant interest, and I plan to participate. Reason being is that I'm a member of Love Tari, that's Tari's business chamber.
Thank you. Who else? Councillor, sorry? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to declare a non-pecuniary, less than significant conflict for item 15.1, the grants program. I have been a member of the Tari on Manning Rotary Club. I haven't been to a meeting in a few years. I'm not sure if I'm still a member, but I'll declare the conflict regardless.
Thank you. Others? Councillor Beasley.
Conflict of interest in item 17.13 matters before the court. As someone mentioned in that that report. Did I state I have a non-pecuniary less than significant interest? Nevertheless, that person was on the same ticket as me at the last election, and I will remain in the room.
Anyone else? Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you. I have non-pecuniary less than significant interest in the following items. Item 14.4. I am an invited patron of the Stroud 200 bicentennial celebration. It is mentioned in that item, but so be it. Item 15.1. The same celebration is mentioned and 2 groups associated with it are up for funding. And item 15.2, I am currently Vice President of the Hawks Nest Tea Gardens Progress Association, which is also mentioned in that item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, what was the first one you mentioned?
14.4.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Okay. So was that all? Because I've got some. Okay. 14.4 mentions Great Lakes Pearl Dragons. I'm no longer a member of the club, but I was for an awful long period of time, and my husband is still very much involved. Therefore, it's a non-pecuniary less than significant interest, and I will stay. The other one was 15.1, which mentions both the Great Lakes Pearl Dragons and the bicentenary event out at Stroud, and they have asked me to be a patron of that as well. So same, less than significant, non-pecuniary. And I will stay in the chair for both of those. All right, that bit done. All right. Moving to the reports. (13.1) Appointment of internal audit service provider.
Yeah, the purpose of item 13.1 is for the council to endorse the appointment of an audit service provider following the expiry of the current external audit service provider. When we talk about internal audit, it's not someone within council providing auditing of our services and how we go about our business. It's an external provider auditing how we go about our services and functions. It could range from accounts payable, DA assessment. It's a service or function that we provide, and it provides reports to council's Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee, generally on a quarterly basis. They attend those meetings. So following the expiry of the current provider, we went out to market. The results of the tender assessment process are contained as a confidential attachment, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you. And I'll need a mover, and if we can bring the motion with the auditor's name in it. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. As you say, it's slightly different to what's in the papers, but I move the council appoint Centium Pty Limited as council's internal audit service provider for a 4-year term, commencing 1st of July 2026, as noted in confidential attachment 4.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Wilson. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the General Manager has summed it up very well, but the internal audit function is a very important function that then gets reported back to ARIC and does drive real improvements in the activities and operations of council. So I look forward to working with Centium once they're in their new role.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Just quickly, thank you, Mayor. I think it's important to recognise we have an external provider providing this function to make sure that it's not biased and they're being quite objective. So I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No? Put the motion. All in favour? Everybody? Carried. Moving to 13.2, new councillor member for ARIC.
Yeah, the purpose of this report, Madam Mayor, is for the council to appoint a non-voting councillor member to council's ARIC, Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, to replace Councillor Miller, who is standing down from the committee following the 15th of May meeting.
So a mover, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, ma'am. We have sent slightly different wording to the minute keepers, but I move that council appoint Councillor Digby Wilson as the non-voting member to the Mid-Coast Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee for the remainder of the council term.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Beasley. Anyone wish to speak to it? Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I've enjoyed my time as the non-voting councillor member on the ARIC, the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, and it's really helped to drive my understanding of the operations of council and the robust audit that council goes through internal and external audit. One of the eligibility criteria for the membership is that the councillor member has the capacity to devote the necessary time and effort to the responsibilities of a councillor member of an audit, risk and improvement committee. And so I have reflected that I need to spend more time in my business, and so I will be stepping down from ARIC. And I'm very glad that Councillor Wilson has taken the opportunity to step in. He has attended a couple, I think 2 ARIC meetings, and I think will represent councillors very strongly.
Thank you. And for the record, I will check that Councillor Wilson is happy to take on that role. Yep.
Mayor, yes, I accept that. I guess it's a nomination, but I'm happy to take on the role. And if I could also speak to it?
Yes, I might just go to the seconder first. Councillor Beasley, did you wish to speak to it? Okay, over to you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller, thank you very much for your contribution on ARIC. I think the role, although it's a non-voting member, it is important that ARIC gets a real understanding of what's going on in council, and having that elected member in there helps ARIC understand that or look at it from a different view. But also the role is a conduit for the insight and some of the intel that can be shared to bring it back to the body. And you've done that very well. You're an avid note taker, so nothing misses you. And you sharing that gives us a better understanding of what ARIC is and how independent they are, and how, I won't say ruthless, but they scrutinise what needs to be scrutinised. So thank you, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. If there's nothing else, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Is everybody? It's carried. Moving to 14.1. I'll pass it to the...
13.3, matters outstanding.
I just need to get to the end of it quicker.
Wait.
Let's go back here. 13.3, matters outstanding.
Purpose of,
GM.
Purpose of item 13.3 is ready to report on the outstanding council resolutions dating back from 1st of January 2018.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Beasley.
I move that the information provided in the resolution registered 27 May 2026, attachment 1, be noted.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Wilson. Councillor Beasley.
The only reason I don't have anything much to say about this or questions is that, to my knowledge, not an awful lot has changed. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wilson, did you wish to speak? No. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I will point out one thing that has changed in the matters arising, and that's item 2025-290, which is the hosting of video recordings on council-produced media. The request was that there would be timestamping and chapters, and I'm very pleased to say, as I had a look through the last council meeting, which is uploaded now, it is currently on YouTube and it's chaptered and timestamped, so you can jump straight to the Acknowledgement of Country or any other sections you want to jump straight to, and you can see it there. So that's a great improvement. So thank you, and noting that change from staff.
Thank you. Anything else? I'll put the motion. Right. Yep. Councillor Graham first.
I was just going to ask for a right reply to others, Mr. Chair.
You want that first?
No.
I'd just like to say, yeah, look, my motion to get the Verge machine was successful, and it was good done. It was accepted from the council. They seem to like the machine, and hopefully we'll be able to get that in use very quickly and improve the road. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any further speakers before I go to the right of reply? No. Back to you, Councillor Beasley.
Councillor Miller brings up a very good point. The timestamping of the videos on YouTube happened early, and as I was someone who was arguing for and championed for the timestamping of videos, indeed one can go directly to Acknowledgement of Country or any of the other business of council very quickly, as opposed to spending, well, maybe not 3 hours, but an awfully long time trying to find that spot. So it's a welcome very much for my use personally, and also for the members of the public.
Thank you. All in favour of the motion? That is everybody. Carried. Thank you. Moving now to 14.1. I should be calling out the names of these things. Sorry about that. This is DA 2026/0176, 25 Wharf Street, Foster, use of unauthorised works and alterations to existing flood and drinks premises. This goes to the Executive Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the General Manager, this DA relates to a site within Foster Town Centre, and importantly to note, it already is approved for use for a food and drink premises. The application doesn't seek a change of use, but rather to regularise the number of internal and not external associated works associated with the continued operation of the business, as well as complete the minor end alterations, including shop fit out works and signage. We received more than 10 submissions, and that's why it's been reported to Council. A key issue raised in the submissions related to the unauthorised works, of which we heard from a speaker this morning. Post notification, the application was amended to remove those works, and all works are internal. And there's also a condition on the approval requiring any works already constructed within the laneway to be removed and on public land. The assessment has considered the relevant controls, and the recommendation is the DA be approved subject to the conditions at attachment 1.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Graham.
Okay. I move that development application DA 2026/0176 for the use of unauthorised works and proposed alterations to an existing food and drinks premises at 25 Wharf Street, Foster, be approved subject to the conditions contained in attachment 1.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Irving. Sorry, there was a number of hands there. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Graham?
Just to say that the initial issue with use of unauthorised works has been rectified. They've ticked all the rest of the boxes that they need to do, so I'm happy to support that.
Thank you. Councillor Irving.
Just a question to the Director of Infrastructure, or not infrastructure, public spaces. So I'm just confused as to where council land starts and where it stops. Is it where the awning stops, or is that council land under the awning, or is it where the awning finishes?
If you just give me a moment, I'll pull up the plans.
Importantly, for the purpose of this application, I'll just note that any works on public land have now been removed, and following the compliance, I suppose, review, following some works was identified there was some works being carried on public land, so we had those changed, and that's why we've got the application.
Yeah, the boundary is along the building line, not under the awning.
Where the shop?
Along the line of the wall.
Sorry, just give me one moment. No, actually, it's the opposite. So the boundary line is in line with the existing overhang.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah, which is shown on page 17.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to debate this? Sorry, Councillor Miller.
Could I ask a question, please, of the Executive Manager? Just a clarification of what Councillor Graham has already said, because I know the Speaker this morning wasn't up to date with the changes. Executive Manager, the title is use of unauthorised works, but the matter here before us, I believe, removes all unauthorised works. Is that right?
Correct. So currently the works have been undertaken both internally and externally without consent. And what's being put forward today seeks approval for the works that are interior to the building. Yeah.
Thank you. Just the Speaker this morning had some concerns about the external works in the laneway, the gas bottle enclosure, the entry wall and the privacy screen, and that this requires them to be removed. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Through the General Manager to the Executive Manager, would it be fair to say with the submissions that we received after it went on a public exhibition that the conditions were changed to make it more amicable or more compliant?
Well, the conditions, maybe if you could be more specific, but the submissions raised mostly concerns around the works undertaken and proposed within public land. And now the proposal's been modified to remove those, and conditions have been imposed to remove any works within public land.
Okay, so it's very important that the public provide feedback when something goes on to on exhibition. It's an opportunity for the public to have their say and change and alter the DA depending on that feedback. So thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. If there's no one speaking against, I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Yeah.
Got there? Carried. 14.2 is the Planning New South Wales submission draft community participation plan. Ms Pleasant?
Thank you, Mayor. Through the General Manager. So the state government currently has a statewide community participation plan out for comment. Council has prepared a draft which is attached to today's agenda. The draft plan proposes to introduce a single community participation plan and it would replace our plan that's currently in place. While the intent of the reform is to improve consistency and efficiency in the planning system, the proposed changes would conflict with the notification engagement approach currently under our strategy. The recommendation before Council is to note the draft plan and associated discussion paper, endorse the draft submission and send it to the department and delegate authority to the General Manager to finalise and lodge the submission by the 3rd of June.
Okay, can I ask staff, sorry about this, don't read the recommendation out because we immediately follow it with someone reading the recommendation out, the motion, if that's okay?
Noted.
So who is going to do that? Councillor Wilson is going to do that.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council notes the draft New South Wales statewide community participation plan and associated discussion paper, endorses the draft submission to the New South Wales Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure. The Council also delegates the authority to the General Manager to finalise and lodge a submission.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please, was Councillor Howard. Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wilson?
I do. Through the General Manager to the Executive Manager, reading the government's proposal and looking at the item we just heard about, item 14.1 prior, it would suggest that if someone wanted to develop that property, that they would not have to provide notice to the public. Would that be fair?
Because that item was about unauthorised development, the draft out for consultation, it actually falls silent on that point. So it would be a good idea to amend the submission to address that. Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the New South Wales government wants to speed up development time, and we also should ask the state agencies to speed up their development time because they also provide significant delays in getting our DAs approved. Our problem is that the proposal means that this proposal allows developments, a range of developments, residential developments, including dwellings, attached dwellings, group homes, flats, shop-top housing, and also non-residential developments, including takeaway food premises, industrial retail outlets, bed and breakfast accommodation. They might not have to provide a notice to ratepayers, so people will not have the opportunity to have their say. I think that's not what our ratepayers are after. They want to have more of a say, and I'm expecting I'm expecting our General Manager will lodge a submission on behalf of Council that reflects that fact.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Tickle.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'll ask the mover and the seconder to pick up the point that Councillor Digby Wilson mentioned with respect to unauthorised applications, unauthorised works, which Ms Pleasant picked up on and suggested that we may need to amend the draft. So I'm a bit handicapped here with Zoom to flesh out some wording. Perhaps the General Manager might look at that. So be something on the lines that note that the General Manager will address concerns with respect to unauthorised works and the notification, public notification policy regarding that. Something to that effect, General Manager, if you wish to look at it. But while that's sorry, General Manager.
Oh, we could take that on board.
Okay, thank you. That's noted then. Look, to speak further, it's over the years, the right of the public to address their concerns either for or against a development application has been the process, and a democratic process. So the elected body can, or those approving or determining the outcome of such an application, hears the views of the public. Now, while the proposal from the government partly addresses that, and I believe, and has been picked up by the submission from the staff, which I commend them for, it sort of shows a shortcoming that there will often be the exclusions of the community to address a matter that should be of importance to them. But I would commend the staff for a lot of effort that's gone into the draft submission. I read it with interest yesterday, and it did take a long time to read. There's a lot of work in it. So I commend the staff for that, because it certainly does pick up the massive concerns that this council ought to have and the community ought to have, that they should not be excluded from having some say in the destiny of this area in terms of land use planning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. You're speaking for or against?
I'm speaking for, but I'm doing
sorry.
No,
sorry, Councillor Tickle. I was talking to Councillor O'Keefe, but I didn't mention his name, so my fault. Please.
Okay. I'm speaking for the motion, which is once again to note the CPP concept and delegate the General Manager to lodge a submission. I'd just like to put my 2 cents in that this appears to be yet another example of state government overreach. I point to the state significant development concept, which was just like this one, meant to be faster and better, but in reality is rendering councils less relevant in an iterative process, it seems to be. And also, I cannot support any measure anywhere that reduces the public's opportunity to have their say. So I'm for submitting against that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. I think if there's no speakers against, we'll put the motion. Do you need to? I mean, technically we only need 2 speakers. We've got 3. If you would like the floor, Councillor Beasley, you can. I was trying to save a bit of time. A question?
A question through the Mayor to the General Manager. I'm wondering, General Manager, what parts of the community participation plan that we agree with, seeing that we seem to find so many problems with it.
I could go through the whole plan and a list if you like. I can provide. I'll go through the whole plan and provide a list of. So the concept of consultation, yes, totally agree with that. The method of consultation, don't agree with that. The length of consultation, don't agree with that. But the concept of consulting with community, yes, totally agree.
Thank you.
Okay, so if I might, that sounds like a lot that we have a problem with, and certainly page 31 of the business papers does list the key concerns, and they are significant. Also, of course, included in more detail is the submission that we have on, I think it's page 120 something, 5 of the attachment that goes into more detail. Those people listening, and I'm sure councillors are probably across this, would do well to read what is being proposed by the state government, and I certainly endorse what Councillor O'Keefe has said about state government overreach.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Sorry. Yep, sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, that is everybody. The motion's carried. Yep. 14.3 is the Housing Barriers Review Implementation Plan Quarterly Report. Executive Manager.
Through the General Manager, this report provides a quarterly update to our housing barriers review. It was undertaken initially to identify barriers that may unnecessarily complicate the development assessment process and the delivery of good housing across the Mid-Coast.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Wilson.
I move that the content of the report be noted.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor, well, no, I'm going to go over here. Councillor Turnbull. Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
I've got a couple of questions and something to share. Through the General Manager to the Executive Manager, I've had a look at the report and some of the initiatives are complete, which is wonderful. However, some of them are getting a little bit long in the tooth, like up to 2 years delay. I'm just wondering, is there the capacity to move some of these outstanding actions along, or have they now a lower priority, or they're no longer relevant?
Through the General Manager, some have been delayed, but we still think that the list is up to date in terms of we still think they're relevant actions to keep in the plan. A couple of the key reasons of why some of them have been delayed, there were key positions vacant for a period of time, including in development engineering and also my substantive position. Those positions have been filled now for a good 6 months, and that team's been able to progress far further than they were before, and so that's allowed some more capacity. But having said that, we've also got our business transformation program that's also taken some a considerable resources and time. There's also value in particularly where we're setting up, resetting up the industry panels, particularly around development assessment and engineering, to try and help remove any roadblocks and hear what's happening with the development industry and see what else we can do to assist. And those things were running, I think, until about 2024. And we still do want to progress with those, definitely. But there's a real opportunity here to make sure that, one, we've got capacity, like I said, but there are also a whole bunch of things that we want to talk to them and promote around our business transformation project, particularly, and a good example is the customer portal. And so, anyway, in short, we're not that far off with delivering some of those things. Yeah.
Thank you. Further speakers? Any speakers? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wilson, for that question, and Executive Manager for the answer. I have similar questions, so it's good to hear those forums and seminars with local developers and so forth. We'll see some action in future updates. That will be good to see, because I think they are very important, so I'm glad to hear they're still on the radar. I did have a question, Mayor, if I may, through the General Manager to the Executive Manager. It mentions in the report about the New South Wales Planning Forum, and that staff gave a case study on the housing barriers program, which is great that we're sort of flagging the success of that. It also said the council advocated for ongoing improvements to the planning system. Could the Executive Manager just summarise what planning improvements did council advocate for, and what was the response from state? Did we get any hope that they might happen?
Yeah, this was a really great opportunity to go down and find out what's happening with the portal and collaborate with other councils, but also to share some of the things that we've been doing internally. So some of the things that we advocated for was to reduce the cost burden of the portal and councils needing to integrate with the portal, lower barriers for councils wanting to adopt new technology, including AI, and improve consistency across councils and the industry generally. The specific improvements the team spoke to was about standardised lodgement information for applications across all council areas. A good example of that is the standard statement of environmental effects template document and implementation of these standards through the portal. Since that workshop, in the last week, the State Government Director Digital Solutions has met with our Manager Development Assessment and Building Certification to explore these concepts further, and we anticipate further conversations to continue. So that's really great.
Further speakers? Councillor Beasley.
I have a question through the General Manager to Ms Pleasant and possibly also Mr Dizelis in regard to the attachment page 215 in the table 1.3 tools are in place. 1.3.1 has, at the end of that table, both a complete and a commenced and ongoing filled into that particular box. Could I just ask for some clarification of what that means in regard to the reviewing existing systems in conjunction with Tech One?
Through the General Manager, can I just check we're talking to 1.3.2?
1.3.1?
Okay.
No, thanks.
Let's take one.
So the reason for also asking Mr. Dizel's possible involvement is that it could be something to do with BTP.
I think the simple answer to that, Councillor Beasley, through the Mayor, is that the technology program is not start and stop. It's always ongoing. There's always refinement. So the main bulk of our technology one implementation occurred actually last week, but that just starts another journey to continue to refine that system to make it work at 150%. That's why it means it's complete, but also it's completed and ongoing. Because there's ongoing work that's got to be done. Always ongoing work that's got to be done with any system. And it doesn't matter whether it's in relation to planning or any part of our business. Anything through BTP requires continual refinement.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, the first part of it, we have reviewed existing systems, and as of 2 weeks ago, we've gone live on the system, but the latter part of that action is still ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you for the speakers. Councillor Tickle.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'll keep this brief. I again want to commend staff on a body of work that's certainly a lot went into it, and it wasn't done in 5 minutes. It's took a lot of work over many months to get where we're at here. I'd also commend staff for the strong advocacy at the state level, in company with other councils, highlighting some of the major issues with the portal that's certainly been called out by planning professionals that out in the marketplace, and also the likes of builders and others who have to have some interaction with that portal. So, Mayor, yeah, certainly, again, great work from staff. The sentiment's always been there when we talk about housing barriers. If council can do the best they can in getting applications out there effectively and assisting people get them approved, that will in one way help with in a certain degree anyway of getting houses built. But we certainly have got a long way to go when we start looking at the shortage and the other barriers that are they're outside of council's control when it comes to housing availability. But once again, thank you, staff. Through the General Manager, a great job.
Thank you. If there's no speakers against, I might put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried again. Moving to 14.4, event sponsorship round 2026. Executive Manager.
Through the General Manager, this report presents the outcomes of the round 1 event sponsorship. There were 13 applications considered, and it makes a recommendation to support 12. The applications were received between the 2nd of February and the 13th of March.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Howard.
Yes, I move that Council 1 approves the allocation of sponsorship under round 1 of the event sponsorship program totalling $36,500 as shown in this report, and 2 retains the remaining funds for inclusion into the event sponsorship program 26-27 budget.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Howard.
Yes, it gives me great pleasure, Mayor, to speak to this. As one of the 3 councillors, along with Councillor Turnbull and Councillor Graham on the event sponsorship assessment panel, we met on the 17th of April to look at the applications that had come through for events that will occur in the second half of this year, from start of July till the end of December, which constitutes round 1 of the event sponsorship assessment program. Now, as the Executive Director noted, there were 13 events applied, and I'm pleased to say that Council is putting funding towards 12 of these events. Some of the highlights include the Subsonic Electronic Dance Festival has been allocated $10,000. Stroud International Brick and Rolling Pin Throwing Festival was allocated $3,000. Another Stroud event, the Stroud, what have I got here? The Stroud Radio, which is a 2-day event, has been given $5,000. And the final highlight I'll raise is the Junior Viking Challenge, which is a 6-a-side soccer tournament in Foster and follows a similar model to the very successful Senior Viking Challenge, and they've been allocated $2,500. Now, this is, of course, in addition to the $30,000 that we've already allocated towards our major events, which are the return of the Barrington Coast Air Show at the end of this year, the Old Bar Beach Festival, and the Barrington Beach Fives, which is a new event. Now, of course, this leaves, we've got an event sponsorship budget of $150,000. So with the $30,000 for the major events and $36,500, which we've allocated for the round 1 events, that leaves a pretty whopping budget outstanding still of $83,500, which can be looked at towards for round 2 events. And we do have the capacity, if someone has a great idea that can bring a lot of people to the Barrington Coast and bring a lot of tourism into this area, to allocate sponsorship towards some more major events that we can support in this LGA. So the round 2 event sponsorship applications will open soon. And it would be a good idea to get your skates on if you plan on running an event in the LGA in the first half of next year, if you'd like council to look at supporting your event. So finally, just to again reiterate how thrilled we are to be supporting these events, and just reiterate that it's important that if you want some sponsorship and you've got a great idea or a great event, to get your application in when round 2 does open later this year.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull, do you speak to it? No? Any further speakers? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Everybody, thank you. 14.5, Taree Regional Airport Strategic Plan. Sorry. Ms. Pleasant.
Through the General Manager, this report presents the outcomes of public exhibition for the Taree Regional Airport Strategic Plan and recommends endorsement of the plan. It provides 10-year direction for the airport with a focus on financial sustainability, aviation-related development, emergency services, aeromedical operations and broader economic opportunities for the Mid-Coast.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Wilson.
I move that the council endorses the Taree Regional Airport Strategic Plan.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Irving. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wilson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a question through the General Manager to the Executive Manager of Sustainable Development. A lot of the residents do miss the commercial passenger service. However, the airport can mean more to the region than just that. What are the current activities that are occurring at the airport that that would support the local economy and local region?
Yep, I might take that one. Through you, Mayor, through the General Manager, I should say. So we have existing businesses operating from the airport, but the strategic plan proposes significant development opportunities around the facility, with a focus on things like aerospace engineering, aircraft maintenance and servicing, flight schools. So we know that flight schools in other areas are looking to expand their offerings and have shown some interest in our facility. Freight and logistics opportunities with the integration with the Northern Gateway project. There are also opportunities around further general aviation, tourism and visitor economy opportunities. So we do have some businesses that are having conversations with the economic development team as well. So there are all sorts of opportunities. From a financial sustainability point of view, there are opportunities for council to develop and lease facilities around the airport business park extension, but there are also aero residential opportunities that are identified in the plan as well. So there is a really diverse range of opportunities that this facility can provide. And I missed one of the key services, which is around that emergency service and aviation support. So we've been working closely with the Rural Fire Service for some time about having an increasing footprint adjacent to the airport as well, and this plan supports that.
Thank you. Any further speakers for? Councillor Tickle.
Question from my Mayor to the Executive Leader. Sorry, I haven't got I forgot, haven't got the title correct there. Used to be open space. What have we got?
Don't worry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, could you also elaborate, please, just through the General Manager, the opportunity on touch and go, what that looks like, and what's happening in that space of late in terms of revenue and sustainability for the landing row?
Yeah, no, great point, and I should have mentioned that. So one of the things that the draft strategic plan identified very early on, and this plan has been under development for a while, is that we should be seriously considering our fees and charges associated with landing and touch and go. For those listening at home, touch and go is when, trainee pilots, they come in, they land just briefly and take off again, and they tend to circulate and practice their takeoff and landings. Historically, we haven't charged for that service, so we've had people coming from outside of the area to use our facility, which has an impact, and we've generated no income from that. So as a part of that review, we've introduced new fees and charges this current financial year, which has seen a significant increase in income generation through Taree Regional Airport.
Thank you. Now, we've had no speakers for or against. Are we happy with that? Councillor Wilson?
Okay. Through the General Manager to either Executive Manager, I think you forgot the Barrington Air Show, which is a fantastic event. I got goosebumps on the back of my neck attending, and I'm looking forward to going to it again. So to support investment in an economy, people won't do it unless they understand what the plan is for a facility. They want some assurance, and having this strategy will provide that assurance. Having this strategy will enable us to capitalise on this unique facility. So this is why I'm moving the motion.
Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Okay.
Question from the Mayor to the General Manager. Was the Northern Gateway Master Plan adopted by Council, and what relationship is there between the Master Plan and the Taree Regional Airport Strategic Plan?
I'll just hand to the Director of Corporate.
Through the General Manager, the Northern Gateway Strategic Plan has not been finalised, and it was put on hold waiting for the airport strategy to be adopted. So the next piece of work will be to finalise that, because the two do dovetail into each other, and one is essentially relying on the other. So we had a lot of work was done on Northern Gateway, got to a point where it was drafted, lots of discussions with Council, and then the whole airport proposal came afoot. So that's now been essentially resolved, hopefully today. We'll then get back to finalising the Northern Gateway, and that's a fairly simple task to finalise that, because now the two pieces of work have been completed, they will dovetail together.
If I may, Mayor, that project's identified in the Outstanding Matters report, and we had identified, I think, a report coming back to June. Yep, to the June Council meeting. It might be July, it depends on how quickly we can turn around the updates to the Northern Gateway Master Plan.
Thank you. Thanks for asking that, Councillor Beasley. It was important to clarify that. Anything else? I'm going to put the motion up. All right, all in favour? That is everybody. Thank you. Carried. Next one is 14.6, revised economic development strategy. Can I have a mover, please?
Through the General...
Sorry, I don't want to move. I want a speaker. Okay.
You have a speaker. Through the General Manager, this is the second edition of Council's economic development strategy. Its vision remains that the Mid-Coast is where people choose to live, work, visit and invest. And the strategy sets a 5-year direction for working with a range of groups and businesses, industry, government and the community to build economic capacity and improve quality of life across the region.
Thank you. Now I need a mover. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the Council adopts the revised Mid-Coast Economic Development Strategy 2023-2028.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Howard. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I will have a question for the Executive Manager in a moment, but what I will say is that I was very proud to have worked alongside you, Mayor, and Councillor Repov, and members of the business community on the original Economic Development Strategy, which this is a revision of. It's not a completely new strategy, it's just a sort of a mid-term revision of the strategy that was 2023 to 2028. And that was the first economic development strategy of Mid-Coast Council. There was a significant body of work. And the premise was always that economic development only works if council and the business community walk hand in hand together. Economic development can't be all council and it can't be no council. It can't be all the business community. So it really only works if the two walk hand in hand. And that's what we've seen in the development of that strategy and also in the delivery of the strategy. I will pause for a question to the Executive Manager. Much has been delivered under the Economic Development Strategy. There have been a lot of wins. Could you summarise what has happened since the original strategy has been adopted as we enter into this new version?
Through the General Manager, I will do my best because there's a lot. And so Council does regularly report back to Council, but if I can do some of the key ones. So the Tari Regional Airport Strategy that we just considered was part of the ED strategy. We've delivered a broad range of actions under the Destination Management Strategy, maintained and updated the Mid-Coast Investment Prospectus. We've already spoken about the Northern Gateway. Industry fact sheets prepared, lots and lots of face-to-face meetings with community and business owners. A lot of that done through during the flood recovery period as well to help people recover and identify ways in which to deal with that devastating event. Business capability or capacity building workshops were undertaken, supported local businesses to apply for grants. Macca's Beef is a really good example locally. Industry collaboration, just on that, I'll just call out currently at the moment our business engagement officer is undertaking lots of engagement sessions that have just started with the manufacturing industry. And they've been really, really successful to the point where he's having ED officers across New South Wales call him and say, what are you doing with manufacturing? Because I'm hearing it's going really well. So that's a really great example. You know, advocacy work for mobile coverage across the region. I could go on with others, but that's a pretty good flavour. Yeah.
It is indeed. Thank you for that.
Thank you. If I continue with my remarks, if that's all right, Mayor. Thank you, Executive Manager. And yes, I think that shows the strength of this strategy and the fundamentally different place the council is in with the community on economic development from before that strategy was put in place. So the real success of the strategy. So this new version maintains the original mission, which is to collaboratively build the economic capacity of the Mid-Coast region to improve its economic future and the quality of life of its community. It maintains the structure of attract and grow. It's about attracting skilled workers, attracting investment, attracting new businesses, attracting visitors, attracting new residents and attracting events. And it's about the growth side of it is supporting businesses, collaboration, innovation and the development of new enterprises, increase the skill levels of businesses and residents and to improve local business culture. The updated strategy does keep the objectives and the implementation areas from the original strategy, that remains. But it does strip out the actions that were listed for annual review. They were listed in the original version. That's okay because it'd be fair to say that annual actions don't really have a place in a 5-year strategy. The strategy is bigger picture. But it does mean we'll see the regular economic development reports that come to council and the community and us as councillors can focus on those actions listed in those regular reports. So I was initially a little concerned they were stripped out of the strategy, but I'm comfortable that this is a strategic approach and those actions are more operational and they come to us in those reports. The total economic output of the Mid-Coast Council area is $6.64 billion. This strategy wants to increase that. There are 7,314 businesses registered in the Mid-Coast Council area, and this strategy wants to increase that. So this strategy is about council, business and other levels of government and the community working together to attract new visitors, new jobs, new businesses, new investments to our region, and hopefully the rising tide floats all boats, whether you're running a business, whether you're an employee, whatever you might be doing, whether you're undertaking training, this strategy hopefully has something to help you. We've heard the great successes of the strategy to date. This is a timely revision halfway through the strategic time, and I'm looking forward to further wins as we go through.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Tickle.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Miller, for what you said there. It's certainly spot on, and thank you, Mayor, and the former Councillor EPOB and council officers in the regional development strategy. With this being an amendment to that, I want to touch on a slightly different vein to what Councillor Miller has spoken of, and that is the cast our mind back to 2021, when the community, certainly the business community, were calling upon council to take a more active role in economic development. And I believe for the first time, the community strategic plan at that stage then had a line item called economic development, which immediately gave the impetus on the integrated planning mechanism that council will take a serious view of economic development. And we're here where we are now. But the other important thing was the cultural shift, and I commend the senior staff for helping to drive this, for staff right throughout the organisation to understand that they have a critical role in ED in this area. I would suggest, and I guess it's a judgment call, but I believe I'm right here, that there is no business in this area that has a bigger bearing on ED than council, simply by doing the things we do every day and simply by doing it well. The amount of capital that is injected into this community by council, I would suggest, is the largest of any other organisation, or certainly larger than any business that injects into this economy. We just a little while ago adopted another matter before council, which is sponsorship. $150,000 has been set aside to attract business to the area through targeted marketing through events. Our economic report that comes off the back of that shows the multiplier effect of having visitors to the area who spend money in the area, who end up liking the area and decide to come back and either live or come back and have a holiday. It's very hard to measure, but there's anecdotal and actual evidence to suggest that event-led tourism has a massive and sustainable input when it comes to ED, and council is now doing that extraordinarily well. So I think this, like any planning document, is only good as the implementation. But council has demonstrated over the previous term and so far in this term that they are serious about ED, and there's so many items that have been ticked off as far as implementation goes. But the message I want to leave with the business community in particular, and sporting organisations and others who wish to promote events, council is not there to do the work for you, but we have an attitude that we won't stand in your way. We'll walk alongside you and encourage you and support you when it comes to having an event or having the enterprise that's going to add to the wider development, economic development outcome across this whole area. We're there to walk alongside you, but we've shown there that now that while we're not going to pick up and do the whole work, we're certainly not going to stand in your way of not supporting your enterprise. So I commend the work that's been done in this space, and I look forward to the outcome over the next 12 months. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Further speakers? No, I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Next one is 14.7, Urban Release Areas Review. Ms. Pleasant?
Through the General Manager, this report presents the outcomes of a review of the Mid-Coast Urban Release Areas report with a particular focus on Hallidays Point urban release areas following completion of the Hallidays Point technical studies. The review responds to Council's December 2025 resolution and considers the implications of the Hallidays Point biodiversity study, traffic study and strategic bushfire study for future land release. These studies identified significant constraints, environmental, bushfire and access and infrastructure constraints affecting some potential growth areas. As a result, the Urban Release Area Report has been amended and it proposes the removal of 3 sites in Hallidays Point from the framework. Their removal will better align future growth planning with technical evidence, including infrastructure capacity, the Hunter Regional Plan 2024 and previous council resolutions. We're seeking to put the document out for public exhibition, at which point it would come back to council for consideration of those submissions and final adoption of the document.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the council endorse the reviewed Mid-Coast Urban Release Areas Report 2026 at Attachment 1 for community consultation, accompanied by the Hallidays Point Traffic Study Addendum 1 2026 at Attachment 2.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Tickle. Councillor Miller.
Nothing to say at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Tickle. Any further speakers? Any speakers for? Any speakers against? No. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? And against? Okay, 1 councillor voted against and the remainder for, so the motion is carried. Moving to item 14.8, which is the Southern Estuaries Coastal Management Program. Ms. Pleasant.
Through the General Manager. So this is the final step, Southern Estuaries Coastal Management Program, and it presents the outcomes of public exhibition and seeks final adoption before we send it off for certification. The program sets out a 10-year plan to manage and protect key mid-coast estuaries, and it responds to pressures such as climate change, coastal hazards, stormwater erosion, sedimentation, water quality impacts and increased recreational use. It was publicly exhibited. We received 23 submissions, 17 from the community and 6 from agencies. Overall, the feedback was supportive. Some changes were made to the document. The program includes actions to protect a range of assets and is supported by business plan, risk assessment and implementation framework.
Thank you. Just noting that Councillor Miller has left the room and call for a mover. Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you. I move that Council 1 adopt the draft Southern Estuaries Coastal Management Program provided in Attachment 1. 2, forward the adopted Southern Estuaries Coastal Management Program to the Minister requesting it be certified. 3, authorise the General Manager to make minor adjustments to the Southern Estuaries Coastal Management Program to address any minor certification requirements. And 4, publish the Certified Coastal Management Program in the Gazette in accordance with Section 17 of the Coastal Management Act 2016 once it is certified.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Irving. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor O'Keefe?
Only to say or reiterate what's in the agenda. Council's contribution to this equates to roughly 1/5 of the overall costs. Other monies are coming from the state government, as it should. The community, just a second. Yeah, the communities involved with this have been quite vocal and in a good way. And I say that because I had the pleasure of chairing the final meeting of the reference group for this document. That's all.
Thank you. Noting that Councillor Miller has returned. Any further speakers? Councillor Graham.
I just have a question for the Executive Manager of Sustainable Development through the General Manager. My question is, in the report, we are relying on climate change predictions. Are the previous predictions of the sea level rises, have they proved to be accurate?
Through the General Manager, I'll answer that one. They've actually proven to be not accurate. They've proven to be less than what's happening and they've been adjusted up. So we're expecting a greater extent of sea level rise than previously before.
Thank you. Another speaker for? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? And those against? 2 councillors against, the remaining for. The motion's carried. Moving on to 14.9, which is the development determinations for April 2026. Executive Manager.
Through the General Manager, this report outlines the development determinations issued during April 2026. 74 development applications were determined and a further 51 were either withdrawn or returned through the portal due to insufficient information.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Howard.
Yes, I move that the report be noted.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Howard.
Yes, only speaking to it, just to note that development remains high in the Mid-Coast LGA, and council deals with the amount of applications efficiently. Our time it takes to determine a development application continues to decrease, and it's a positive thing for our LGA, and it's a great work by our staff.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull. No. Councillor Tickle.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a question, if I may, to the Executive Leader, Sustainable Development. With the 51 application, I believe it was 51, that were returned, not determined due to insufficient information or various reasons. I'm sorry I haven't given you notice on this. Is there a trend on where the shortcomings are? Is there a link to the portal that is an issue with this? Because it's certainly on a percentage base, that's a lot of DAs that have been returned for further information or not been able to be dealt with.
Through the General Manager, there's been an increase over the last, let's just say it was 6 months, because the changes were made in terms of the Minister's expectations for councils to turn around the pre-lodgement phase to 7 days. And that has directly impacted an inability to meet those timeframes and ask for additional information. So we're left with you either it's sufficient and we lodge the application, or we return it and request for further information in terms of it's returned. So what I believe will happen is as everybody adjusts to that, particularly regular customers, and it's clearer and we're more consistent with what the expectation is, that number will drop. The information on our website will be updated, and yes, I think what you're picking up on is what are the themes of things that people are shortfalling on, and for us to make sure that we feed that back to our regular customers. Some of the things that I mentioned earlier under a previous item around the things that we're advocating for at the state in terms of consistency of how things are done at a state level across all councils, like consistent templates and a statement of environmental effects. I think those things will also help.
Thank you. Can I follow up with a follow-on question in connection with that? So it may inadvertently, Executive Leader, is that in fact, rather than getting it through DAs quicker with this 7-day target, it can end up taking longer than what was previously there, where council staff had the ability to communicate effectively, have the DAs up to speed, and then processing. Would you believe that's the case? And some of the nexus to the reason by giving the feedback to the Department of Planning of the current shortcoming, you think that's a reasonable analogy?
Through the General Manager, and I believe that removing those, I guess for the applications that are being returned, I guess overall, if you consider the applicant's time, it might take longer, but not having those insufficiently documented development applications in the system will allow council to be more freed up to deal with applications that are able to be assessed, and that will therefore hopefully reduce assessment timeframes. Yeah.
Thank you. Further speakers? Councillor Beasley.
Question through the General Manager to Ms. Pleasant. I'm wondering how the applications that are withdrawn are dealt with in compiling the figures. Essentially meaning, do they get included in the application returned in the portal figures as just a continuance of days for an application to make its way through?
Through the general manager, just clarification. So does it contribute to council's assessment timeframes, like the days assessed? If so, the answer is no.
Okay, any further speakers? Councillor Wilson.
I do note that a number of the application returns, there seem to be, the trends seem to be they're small ancillary type DAs. There's a couple of houses in there as well, but they're not big developments. So there will be a lot of education, and to get those small developments through, ultimately you'd be able to build something a lot quicker. I've also got to note that it's good to see the number of DAs being completed by the delegated authority. That means there aren't many being escalated to our level, which I kind of like, but it means also the staff are educating those who need to use the portal and get a DA through, so it's more compliant and have to come up to us. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. I've had 2 speakers for. If there is no speakers against, I will put the motion. So everybody, carried. Moving now to the public spaces reports. The first one is 15.1 Community and Cultural Development Grant Program 2026 funding. Mover, please. Councillor Turnbull. I was waiting for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Forgot you. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Thank you, Mayor. Through the General Manager. This report provides an overview of the 2026 Community and Cultural Development Grant Program, which invited eligible groups to apply for up to $5,000 to support community and cultural capacity building projects. A total of 46 applications were received and projects recommended for funding are identified in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you. And thank you for not saying what I wanted to say. So I move that the donations and funding panel meeting notes on the 17th of April 2026 be noted, and that funding of $76,084 be paid to 29 applicants detailed in this report.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Howard. Councillor Turnbull.
Yes, I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Howard's discussion before, because we met at the same time for the events and sponsorships and the donations panel. So it was a big meeting, but it was a great meeting because we were able to fund a number of incredible applications. So on pages 69 to 72, you can see all of the applications that we funded, and we fully funded most of the items. So there was only a couple that were partially funded, pretty much due to proper quotes not being received or the criteria not being met. So we really recommend that you have a look at those because we would love to be able to support more organisations. As he said, you know, there were 46 that were submitted. So there were a few that weren't able to be met because they didn't meet the criteria. So of the ones that were there, we had a great time doing that. And yeah, thank you for that. And have a look, page 69 to 72, some really great funded events.
Indeed, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this one? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Everybody, thank you. Carried. Next one is 15.2 Mid-Coast Arts Support Program 2026 funding. Mr. Bully.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the General Manager, this report provides an overview of the Mid-Coast Arts Support Program 2026, which invited applications for projects supporting the region's art and creative industry sector. A total of 15 applications were received and assessed, and those recommended for funding are identified in the report.
Thank you. Mover? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Arts and Cultural Creative Industries Reference Group meeting notes of 24 March 2026 be noted, that funding of $15,000 be allocated to the 4 applicants detailed in this report, that Mid-Coast Coffin Weaving Collective be approved as the first reserve project and allocated funding up to $4,000 should any of the recommended applicants not accept Council's funding conditions.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Howard. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. So I am the chair of the Mid-Coast Arts reference group, Creative Industries reference group, and Councillor Beasley joins me on that group. And we had a good time going through these applications with the rest of the reference group, which is a representative of local artists and cultural and arts workers from across the Mid-Coast Council area. So it was great to have their input as well as Councillor Beasley's. As the Executive Manager said, $15,000 being awarded to 4 applicants. You can apply for up to $5,000 each. So theoretically, you could only have 3 applicants out of the many that applied. So we managed to make it stretch a little bit further. But there were 15 applications received with total funding requested of just under $63,000. We would love to have been able to fund more groups, but just sadly, there isn't the money in the Arts Support Program pool to be able to do that. And I think it was unanimous around the table that we would love to have some more money to distribute to some great projects. But we managed to fund some great projects. So we funded 4. One is a multimedia theatrical work by artists in Stroud that dramatises a significant local story with live theatre and filmed scenes shot across the Stroud district, particularly relevant to the bicentenary happening in Stroud. There's a series of 4 free creative workshops bringing together art, technology and environmental activism, encouraging participants to creatively explore the environmental future of their region. There's a series of intergenerational movement workshops linked to the Mid-Coast Festival of Stories, and a mural in Gloucester depicting the story of the night sky at a culturally significant moment for the Biripi and the Warramai people. So we managed to fund at least those 4. There are several, if you have a look at the table, the rest of them say not recommended for funding. What that table should really say is would if we could, would have loved to, but unfortunately we had allocated the entire pool.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Beasley.
As Councillor Miller has mentioned, I'm also on this reference group, and we have excellent meetings until we start talking about money, and then things get rather feisty. The result of this particular meeting, I think, was an excellent one. We've done partial funding, which I think was really sensible, seeing that it was difficult to be able to delineate when all those involved marked each of the projects. So everyone gets something. Almost everyone's a winner. As Councillor Miller has mentioned, it's not that the other projects weren't worthy of funding, it's just that the money wasn't there. And we do have a backup in case one of the big ticket items finds itself unable to continue. So it has been certainly worthwhile to be on that reference group just to find out people's opinions, and I think it's a good outcome.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Howard.
As Councillor Beasley recognises, everyone's a winner, baby. That's no lie. Okay.
Oh, you were waiting for that, weren't you? I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? You're right. Carried. And 15.3 is the Public Spaces and Sustainable Development Monthly Project Status Report. Mr. Woolley.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the General Manager, this report provides an update on the delivery status of key projects across the public spaces and sustainable development divisions, including any emerging issues relating to project schedule, cost or delivery impacts. A total of 43 projects are currently underway, with 3 completed during the reporting period and 2 experiencing schedule changes, one being a delay, the other returning to schedule.
Thank you. And a mover? Councillor Irving.
I move that the Public Spaces and Sustainable Development Monthly Project Status Report be noted.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Wilson. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Irving? No. Councillor Wilson? No. Councillor Beasley?
Through the Mayor to Mr. Bully. In regard to the particular project which is delayed, could we receive an update on that, please?
So yes, there was a delay in the Wingham Cedar Party Reserve upgrade. We did report the outcome of the request for tender process to the April meeting, which identified a revised program, I think. So But the key issue was that the consultants that were delivering the design for us had some issues at their end and they weren't able to meet our timelines. At the moment, that program slipped to August, but yeah, things have commenced on site out there now, and it will be a great community facility when completed.
And that's the contract I just signed yesterday as well.
Correct.
So
yeah.
the contract has now been entered into.
Right. Anything else? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. That's everybody. Moving now to the infrastructure and engineering reports. The first is 16/1/2026 LG New South Wales Water Management Conference.
Thank you, Mayor. This report seeks to identify interest from councillors in attending the conference for this year and obviously subsequent approval if there is interest.
Yep. Need a mover, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Mayor...
We should have it up on the screen. I think
Oh,
we
thank you.
talked about this beforehand.
Yes. Wait for it to come up on the screen. Yes, that Councillor Claire Ponton be approved to attend the 2026 Local Government New South Wales Water Conference.
Thank you.
2026.
2026. And a seconder, please. Councillor Tickle, thank you. Any discussion?
Just briefly that I've attended a previous one, Councillor Irving's attended a previous one. It is good for councillors to go along to these and learn about the industry, and I'm sure the team will be very happy to have you along there, Mayor, to be learning more about what's happening in water.
Thank you. I should have mentioned we did discuss it before and nobody else expressed an interest in going this time around. So I'll put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Going now to 16/2, which is the May 2026 Flood Recovery Transport Update. Council, Director, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This report will provide council and the community with an update on the progress in relation to our recovery program following the May 2025 major flood, which just so happens to be around about 53 weeks ago.
Yes. Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Miller.
I move that the May 2025 Transport Flood Recovery Program 12-month post-event update be noted.
Thank you. And a seconder, who was that? Councillor Howard. Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Again, and I don't want this to become sort of routine and accepted, so I do call it out, an extraordinary amount of work been done in the past 12 months plus 1 week, and that is noted in this report. So the team has done an extraordinary amount of work on fixing bridges and landslips and roads and culverts and all sorts of things. So that is in there. The outstanding balance, we're still waiting to be paid back by the state government. The outstanding balance now is $20 million, which, look, it's better than last month. The outstanding balance was $37 million. So that's good. But it still means we're $20 million out of pocket. And that's not great. Because that's, ratepayers' money that should be sitting there earning interest for ratepayers has been spent, and we're still bankrolling the state government. So a question for the General Manager, just do we have an expectation of when that balance might come down? And I will flag, I have some further questions, but I'll ask those in the finance section later.
Yeah, so my discussions with Reconstruction Authority, I was anticipating receiving an additional $20 million by the end of this month, noting that there's 3 more days to go, but it hasn't been received yet. So I'm hoping, but not half expecting. I'll expect that to be received before the next council report, before the end of the financial year, so it'll balance out by then.
And just to clarify, so that money that's coming in, is that to pay for the work that's been done, or is there a bit of, presto changeo happening that we're being prepaid for other
Probably
work?
a bit of both. The majority of it is essentially our essential public asset infrastructure applications. So those works haven't been done yet, but we've reached agreement with Reconstruction Authority that will receive an upfront payment upon approval of the works. So it's either going to be 20% or 50% of the cost of the works we'll receive upfront, and that's why the shortfall's narrowing. So I'll expect early next financial year we should be ahead of what we actually spent.
And so my last question, Mayor, sorry, just to follow it up again. That's great that that will help the cash flow issue, that we're getting prepaid for work that we haven't done yet. But is there an expectation when we'll finally get paid for the work that has been done, which is still 20 million more than we've been paid for?
Yes, there is. I don't have the date.
I can probably add to that. So the priority for the moment for the Reconstruction Authority is to assess all of our claims that have been lodged by the end of this month. That's so that they can lock them in for the final payments before the end of financial year. We'll have more to report on that next month because there is a substantial amount of requests for information floating between the Reconstruction Authority assessors and our internal flood response teams. We've been quite timely, as detailed in the report, around getting some of those requests for information back, but it's just about making sure that we complete all of the requirements that RA needs so they can approve it from that perspective. So we'll have more next month.
Thank you. I was going to check with the seconder. Councillor Howard, did you wish to speak to it? No. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. General Manager, I'll leave it up to you whether you answer this or back to the Director. The money coming in is a bit of it's slow, and I can see in the next report our funds available are not where they used to be. I've got this is a double pronger. Is there a requirement that when we get the money up front, that's restricted to a particular project, or we can put that all together and use it?
No, it's restricted for the particular project that we receive it for.
Right. And are we being inhibited by the lack of funds to progress with the work that we need to do?
Not at the moment, no.
And we don't anticipate
because it's not ideal.
No, it
That's
isn't
how you want me
ideal.
to put it.
Yeah.
So the fact that we may not be restricted on the work that we're carrying out at the moment, what it does do is it probably, without the funding being secured and guaranteed, it delays how we program our future works and impacts upon our current works program because we have to balance both. So we've got our business as usual works, we've got our flood recovery works. So early assurance of what we have approved to carry out allows us to properly plan because there's a certain amount of time we have to carry out all the works.
Yeah, it's very concerning and troubling that we're put under this position, but understand where we're at. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this one? Councillor Beasley.
I have a question to the General Manager, to Mr. Scott. It's a question that just come to my mind, so happy if you wish to take it on notice. Just wondering at the time of the flood last year, whether Council was undertaking any major projects that were then badly impacted by the flood and how that would be therefore accounted for later on, because of course the cost of the work taking place at the time would be so much greater. Is that also going to be included in our flood assessment?
It's true, the General Manager. There weren't any projects that were significantly adversely affected by the flood. The most notable one was probably delay associated with progress of Cedar Party Creek Bridge at the time. That, from a council perspective, didn't run into any additional contract costs or any additional expenses from that, noting that the contract did extend over into a period of liquidated damages and then was subject of negotiations to resolve that at no additional cost to council. So all of the other contract works that were undertaken, there was, other than the delays to the works program to reprioritisation of some of the key water and sewer works that we did, which have been previously reported, that's about the extent of the impact that we've had on the program. And none of the projects, obviously, if not suffering losses, didn't have anything then to go into a flood recovery program or to be funded externally from that, nor would they be eligible to be funded from that. Most projects themselves would have some sort of project insurance that would provide the contractor with an avenue to fund losses associated with bad weather or events that they can't foresee.
Thank you. It's for noting, so I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? I think it's everybody. And going to 16.3, monthly capital works project status report, infrastructure engineering services. Director.
This report provides council and the community with the status of our major infrastructure and engineering projects, including highlighting some of the potential issues we have with schedule costs or delivery for those respective projects.
Thank you. Move it, please. Councillor Howard.
Yes, I move that the monthly project status report be received and gateway reports endorsed.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Graham. Councillor Howard.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Graham.
Yeah, look, there's a number of things that have been happening in there. If I get this to work. I'd just like to make mention of the Isabella Primrose Street roundabout, Wingham. There was some initial potentially contaminated material. Looks like that's being confirmed to be uncontaminated, which is good news. So it's going to be anticipated to be finished in September 26, which is good news for the people of Wingham. So.
Through the Mayor, I should also add that's a little bit longer than the original timeframe that we had, owing to the delay that we've had, but also the level of discovery of unknown former services in that area, both across electricity, sewer services, and stormwater, with various different pipelines or parts thereof uncovered and ultimately needing removal and rehabilitation.
Indeed. If there's nothing further, I'll put Councillor Beasley.
Question through the General Manager to the Director in regard to the work at Redhead Road and the roundabout there. It's been quite the curly one. It's over $3 million worth of work being done there and has been delayed somewhat. Could the Director give us an update on that, please?
Certainly, through the Mayor, a lot of the original delays associated with that and the staging that was implemented was around conflicts with underground services, and particularly in that case was the cost of excavating in rock. And the result that had on the program, that we did do some elements of redesign around that to revise the design to try and minimise our costs associated with that and try and bring the project budget down. And unfortunately, in the timing of doing all of that and the delay that provided, we ended up being highly susceptible to the increase in bitumen costs, particularly around the slipline lay of asphalt, which is only just finishing up now. And that added substantially to the cost of that particular project. That's probably the most at-risk one because it was the project that we'd started or commenced before the global conditions had seen such a rapid increase in bitumen and fuel pricing.
Thank you. As someone who drives through that regularly, it's going to be very welcome. Councillor Beasley.
Further question, please. Have some of the delays been caused by third-party organisations, as I've heard anecdotally from the public?
There has been, particularly in relation to some of the service clashes that we had early on in the place, and trying to get through and navigate and finding contractors that are certified, particularly for essential energy work, is difficult, and you only have limited windows at which you can do work with them. That certainly caused us some delays early on in the piece, and obviously was one of the key reasons why we opted to go back to redesign the roundabout alignment so that we could minimise some of that and avoid some of the costs and times associated with it.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Going now to 16.4, which is the Water and Systems Monthly Performance Report. Director.
Thank you, Mayor. This report provides key information on the performance of our water and wastewater services for the benefit of Council and the community.
Thank you. And a mover, please. Councillor Irving.
I move that the Water and Systems Monthly Performance Report for April 2026 be received and the performance against the guidelines and licence conditions be noted.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Tickle. Councillor Irving. Councillor Tickle, do you wish to speak to it? Anyone wish to speak to this one? No? Oh, yes. Councillor Graham.
Just a question. In part 3 on page 99, we've got $16,953 in financial assistance across 21 applications. Can elaborate on what they actually were and why they were those leaks were occurred?
I couldn't across all of them. Most of them are due to materials or unforeseen things that happen below ground. So where a fitting is broken or where potentially tree roots have gotten into the water service and created a damage or a constriction, and then it's something that's not apparent at the surface. It usually shows up through meter reading, and then the whole principle of that program is so that we offer customers that do the right thing and fix it as soon as they become aware of it. Dispensation for the fact that they wouldn't have otherwise have seen it prior to then. And if they had seen it, they would have obviously fixed it quicker than that, because essentially it's really easy to see it when it sprays in the air, not so easy to see it when it's under a slab or out in someone's backyard where it's already really wet, or all those sorts of things.
Thank you. Just noting that Councillor Tickle has left the meeting. Where are we at? Anyone else wish to speak on this one? Councillor Beasley?
Just to pick up on what Councillor Graham was asking about, question through the General Manager to Mr. Scott. The number of reported incidents, which appears in the attachments, page 13, is 26 year to date. How does that stack up overall? How are we doing? Is that a lot? Is it few? I noticed that we don't have necessarily any breakdown as to whether it's a council problem or a personal problem. Comments, please.
Before you answer, I'll just note that Councillor Tickle's returned to the room. Over here.
Thank you, Mayor. They're all essentially defects or leaks in private services. So none of them are of council's responsibility. They're all beyond the meter, which is the homeowner or the property owner's responsibility in its entirety. It's not unusual for us to get a good handful of applications every month. So I wouldn't say that the figures are unusual, particularly where you go through and where we see the most predominant occurrence of them is in changes between climatic or weather patterns. So when we go from being really dry to being really wet or back to being really dry, it's usually exacerbated by ground movement. That's not saying the leak wasn't there beforehand, but leaks certainly do tend to become more prevalent or more obvious when the ground has moved and potentially shifted the pipes or increased the loads on the pipes to result in that leak becoming readable through the meter.
Thank you. Anything else? No? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Everybody. Carried. Moving now to the corporate reports. The first is 17.1 April 2026 monthly budget review. Director?
The purpose of this report is to present the April 2026 monthly budget review. The report also includes details of proposed budget variations that have been identified during that review.
Thank you. Move it, please. Councillor Miller.
I move that the monthly budget variation report covering April 2026 be noted and the budget variations proposed, including transfers to and from reserves, be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Tickle. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions for the Director of Corporate Services through the General Manager. I'm happy to do two and then pause for others to have an opportunity. My first question is about the casual labour costs at Gloucester Pool. There's a transfer of $40,000 to casual labour costs at Gloucester Pool. Director, are you able to say what's driving that? Has been an increase in casual hours? Or?
Through the General Manager, what's driving that is an error where we haven't included a casual leave loading. That's now been picked up and the error fixed. It's 25% casual loading.
So they were in the budget as permanents as opposed to as casual. So you missed
we just missed leave loading, so that's now corrected.
Yep, thank you. My second question is the airport's operations budget. I've called this out a couple of times. Every time it's reported, it keeps going up and up and up and up and up, i.e. we're making more money out of the airport than we expected. And this one updates the landing fee charges again by another $20,000. This is great news. I'm not complaining. But my question is, how much has it been reviewed since the start of the financial year? Because I feel like it's been quite a few of these. And a follow-on is has the budgeted income for next year been revised if we think this increase is going to continue?
Through the General Manager, I'd like to start by saying it's complicated because it's largely driven by one individual with a very large plane. And depending on when they decide to fly in, depends on how much we actually get from that. It's not as a result of overall increased usage of the airport. It's used by a single individual, so it's very hard to budget, particularly into future years, because it will depend on whether that individual brings their plane to the airport or not, depending on what happens, I guess, in the context of how they live their life. So it's a very, very difficult one. There is a significant increase in income as a result of that plane landing at our airport, which is fantastic. And we'd like to land every week, to be perfectly honest. And if we could actually establish a pattern, then we could budget for it.
Thank you.
Mayor, I did have two more questions, but I'm happy to share if anyone else wanted to have a turn for a little while.
That's all right. Go for it.
That's you.
Right, I'm back. So I flagged earlier questions for the Director of Corporate Services through the General Manager. I flagged when we talked about the flood recovery road. So I have two questions regarding that, but it is more about budget, which is why I'm asking it here. So the General Manager talked a little bit about the outstanding balance coming down, and there's a chance it might come down to zero by the end of the financial year, which would be great. But Director, if the outstanding balance doesn't come down to zero by the end of the financial year, if for whatever reason we don't get paid by June 30, what impact does that have on Council's financial results for this current financial year?
Through the General Manager, it's essentially, as seen on paper, it's a worse result because we've spent more than we've actually brought in. So it will register as a worse result if we don't get the gap closed. So on page 105, it shows the figures that are in our financial system as at the 13th of May, 57 million expended, 30 million in. So if we get a large sum, as has been indicated from RA, that will close that gap considerably, and the impact on our final result won't be as significant. If that's not closed up, then there will be an impact on our result, and it will be a worse impact.
So in this report, the original general fund surplus in the original budget was 33,000. This report now has it projected as a $4.47 million surplus, which is great. But you're saying that's dependent on being paid on time by RA to achieve that surplus?
That's correct. We'll constantly monitor that. We've got a little bit of time left within this financial year. We're tracking quite well. We've amended that table following some comments from the last council meeting to try and remove the minuses and the like. The minus that's in the table is a genuine minus for the month of April. But as I said, there is some time before the end of financial year. So we'll keep a very, very close eye on that, and we will discuss that in future reports to council before we get to year's end.
Thank you. And I think my final question, which relates to my question earlier to the General Manager. So if we're trying to fix our cash flow problem by future funding or percentage future funding of larger projects to help that cash flow issue. But my question is, what does that do to the balance sheet at the end of the year? So I presume we can't recognise in the current year income that's tied to asset work we're planning to do next year. So I see how the solution helps our cash flow issue, but I feel like it puts us into a balance sheet problem.
That's correct. So as the General Manager indicated earlier, they're restricted funds, so we'll go into restricted funds, and they will only come out of restricted funds in the year that the money's actually expended.
So it may have an impact on our liabilities.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else? I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Everybody. Thank you. Carried. Next one is 17.2, the Cash Investments Report, April 2026. Director?
This report presents our cash investments for the last month. The report's required under Section 625 of the Local Government Act.
Thank you. Mover, please. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Councillor Turnbull.
I move that the information provided in the report be noted.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Wilson. Wish to speak to it, Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Wilson. Councillor Tickle. No. Councillor Beasley.
I have a question through the General Manager to the Director, one which I sent through previously. Could he explain, at least to me and possibly to others, the difference to council operations between at-call accounts and cash at the bank, and our speed of accessibility of both?
Yep.
And possibly also, of course, interest rates that might be paid.
Yep. Through the General Manager, essentially an at-call account is essentially a council account where funds can be accessed immediately. There's no fixed investment term. Money's held on call at the bank. We can access it at any time. It is typically interest generating, and we use it for operational liquidity. Cash account is essentially an actual bank account that's used to hold our council cash. We can access that at any time as well. So they are quite similar. The main difference is that an at-call account generates interest, a normal cash account doesn't.
Thank you.
It's the simplest way I can explain it.
Anyone wish to speak for or against? No, I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. 17.3 is the Floodplain Management Reference Group membership. Oh, she was talking to me. Director, sorry.
The purpose of this report is to firstly present some recommended nominees for the Floodplain Management Reference Group, and secondly, to present a revised terms of reference to the group, both of which are required to be endorsed by council.
Thank you. For the record, Councillor Irving's left the room. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the nominees recommended in the confidential attachment 1 to this report are appointed to the Floodplain Management Reference Group. The revised floodplain management terms of reference included in as attachment 2 are endorsed by Council.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Tickle. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wilson?
Yes, thank you. So the reference group have recently commenced work on the Wallace Lake and Wollumba River Flood Risk Management Study and Plan. So that impacts the southern part. The reference group had I don't know, I'd call it a balanced mix across the LGA. So we were seeking some additional members to the group. We did receive a number of high calibre nominations. I think there were 8 in total. Not enough seats for everyone, I'm afraid. But we're happy to get a better mix across the LGA, so it's more of a balanced view across the geographies and also of skill. We also talked about here the terms of reference changing. That's just a small thing. There's a link that was wrong that's just being updated.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Tickle.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will add, so it can be noted by the elected body, and particularly the General Manager, as Councillor Wilson alluded to, there was a high calibre of applicants. Was more of a case of who do we not add to the reference group rather than who should we eliminate. The consensus position was, look, those who aren't invited to form part of the reference group at this stage, be notified that we wish to keep them in reserve should there be a vacancy occur during the term of council. So if that can be noted, General Manager, operationally would give the capacity for staff to call on that, let's call them reserve, to fill that casual vacancy rather than having to go out to the community again to seek fresh nominations.
Can I ask the General Manager if that's kosher or whether we could get away with that?
Not really kosher. I don't want to get too technical, but unless council resolves to have like a reserves list, which it normally doesn't do. But what it does show is when we need to seek membership, we're going to get a good caliber of responses, which is quite refreshing.
Thank you. I'll accept that, General Manager.
Yeah. Maybe we can keep them on the list and make sure they get notified.
100%.
Yep. Anything else on this? Councillor Wilson? You spoke before, or was it just questions? I'm going to go to Councillor Beasley while you think about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but you got the right reply.
I'll think about it for you too, Councillor. This is an excellent report to come through. The Floodplain Management Advisory Committee is very important for this area, and it's going to rain some more over the next couple of days, and I'm sure we're all looking at our water meters at the moment, hoping that it stops before anything worse happens. I note that the report included in the attachment refers to the Flood Risk Management Manual that is part of the New South Wales Environment Government Strategy, and that brings it in line with many of the other flood risk management committees throughout the coast. The ones that I know best, of course, are Ballina and Byron, and they have certainly adopted those. I'm sure Lismore has too. It's good to have more people and more talented people on this reference group, so I look forward to hearing reports from the reference group soon.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Did you want your right to reply?
Mayor, we're looking forward to the new members. I'm looking forward to welcoming them, and there is a meeting next week, and it'll be wonderful to get the paperwork done by then.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Noting that Councillor O'Keefe is out of the room, but Councillor Irving has returned, so that was carried by, everybody present voted for. That's all We got it. So 17.4 is membership of the Arts and Creative Industries Reference Group. Director?
The purpose of this report is to present the Arts and Creative Industries Reference Group minutes from the 17th of February 2026. The report also seeks endorsement for nominees to be added to the reference group.
Thank you. Councillor Miller, did you wish to move this?
I did, thank you, Mayor. I was just checking that I thought there was an error, but we're noting the meeting notes of two different meetings across two different items. So I thought there was an error there, but there wasn't. And I've lost my page. Thank you, Mayor. I've got it now. I move that the Arts and Creative Industries Reference Group meeting notes from the 17th of February 2026 be noted, and that the nominees identified in confidential attachment 2 be appointed to the Arts and Creative Industries Reference Group.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Beasley? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, my confusion was that previously we noted that the meeting notes from the March meeting be noted, and on this one we're noting this one, so I was momentarily confused. But no, it's quite all right. This was probably a little bit easier than the floodplain management that we spoke about, because in this one there were 2 vacancies and 2 applications. So it was a very short appointment meeting, and Councillor Beasley was also there, and we agreed on the applications that were very valid, and I'm sure they'll bring a great new contribution to the reference group. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the members of the reference group. They serve as the panel for the arts funding, and they serve as a really important sounding board, a two-way sounding board between council and the arts and creative industries community as we go through our important work in that area.
Thank you. Noting that Councillor O'Keefe has returned, are there any further speakers on this issue? Councillor Beasley?
The meeting notes that are included in the attachment do refer to a meeting that Councillor Miller wasn't at, so it's an unusual one that comes to us. We've already spoken about the new committee members whom we have yet to meet, but look very competent, and so thankfully we're getting to, we expect, very able people onto the committee. Just going back to reference the 17th of February, which is the meeting that we have in the attachments. Councillor Miller wasn't able to be with us, and it was a very general but excellent meeting we had, and as you can see underneath it, it wasn't because Councillor Miller wasn't there. That's not the reason that I mentioned it. It wasn't like we, partied without Councillor Miller there. We partied anyway in a different way. But below that in the attachments agenda, it includes the performance report card, and that's worth a read for anyone interested in what the Arts and Cultural Industries Reference Group actually does.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No, I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. That's everybody. Okay, the next one is 7.5 Mayoral Emergency Communications Procedure. Director?
This report provides an overview of the review that was undertaken following the May 2025 flood in relation to the support provided to the Mayor during emergency events. It was one of a number of reviews that have been undertaken both internally and externally in relation to that event. It's obviously poignant given it's a year on virtually at this meeting since that event. And as a result of that review, a mayoral emergency communications procedure has been developed and is presented to Council for noting.
Thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Miller.
I move the council note the mayoral emergency communications procedure provided in attachment 1.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Turnbull. Councillor Miller.
I'm really pleased to see this procedure being tabled, and Mayor, I know you've done a lot of work on this, and you and I have talked about this a couple of times. Council has the, I suppose, the motto of better every day, and part of that is, as an organisation, Council learns from major events that happen, including major disasters. And I know there's been plenty of learnings from the major disaster. This is one of them. There was I suppose some confusion or some tension between the sort of the civic leadership messaging and the emergency operations messaging. And it's really, really important that we call that out, because council's not responsible for the emergency operations that happen during a disaster. And that's really important. And the last thing you'd want to do is be treading on the toes of the Leocon or the emergency management. And so the role for the mayor is not to speak on behalf of emergency management response. They have a very clear and important job to do. But what this procedure talks about is the civic leadership role that the mayor has during a disaster when the public is crying out for answers and wants to know what's happening. And so this does talk about the role of the mayor as a visible civic leader during emergency events, particularly in the early stages when community concern is high and the need for reinsurance is significant. Mayor, as the flood went on, I heard at a community conversation last week a person thanking you for your communications through the tail end of the flood and your regular updates since doing that civic leadership role. So I think it's really important we clarify this procedure, because when the emergency hit, the procedure wasn't quite clarified. As an organisation, we're better every day, and we're certainly ready, touch wood, a long time in the future for the next disaster.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. I echo everything you just said. Anyone else wish to speak to it? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That is everybody. Thank you. Carried. So we've got a bunch of papers coming up. It's the notes coming out of the policy working group meeting and the six policies resulting from that. I did float it with councillors before the meeting that we could do it by exception unless someone wanted to pull any out to speak to. You wanted to pull out concealed water?
Mayor, I wish to pull out 1710 concealed water wet leaks policy, please.
Are we happy to do the other 5 on Globo? All right, I'll do that first. It requires a procedural motion first, which is, so I'll move this, that council consider items on the agenda by exception in accordance with section 13 of council's code of meeting practice. So I need a seconder for that one, please. Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. Everybody happy with that? Raise your hands. Thank you. So that's carried. And then we can move to the actual motion, which is that council adopt the recommendations as printed in the business paper for items 17.7 cemeteries, 17.8 business continuity, 17.9 assets disposal, 17.11 caravan parks and 17.12 markets, and 17.6, which is the meeting notes. Thank you very much. And amend the order of business in accordance with section 13 of council's code of meeting practice. I have a mover for that one, please. Thank you, Councillor Miller. And a second to Councillor Tickle. And I'll just call for a vote on that. So everybody in favour, stick your hands up. Thank you. That's done. So we formally agreed to the recommendations of all those papers I just read out, which means that we need to go back to, what was the one we excluded? 10? 1710, which is the concealed water leak allowance policy.
Can we just check the minute takers? You okay? Up to date? On top of it? Okay, thank you.
1710. I did warn them we've tried to do that, but it depends on how many things want to come out. So I didn't give them the numbers. They're doing very well. Okay, so Director, please.
Right. The purpose of this report is to present the draft concealed water leak allowance policy. It's the second version of this policy to council for adoption.
Thank you. And Councillor Howard, did you wish to move it? No? All right. Whoops.
Councillor Howard would like to ask a question first, so to allow him to do that, I'm happy to move the motion to then open the floor for him to ask his question, if that's all right, Mayor.
Thank you for moving it, Councillor Miller. And a seconder, please. Councillor Tickle.
So I will move the draft concealed water leak allowance policy version 2 as provided in attachment 1 be adopted.
Thank you. It's good we're flexible. So you want to ask a question, Councillor Howard?
Yes, my question is for the Director through the Mayor or through the GM. Could you possibly please clarify the situation regarding single events that perhaps happen over 2 billing cycles?
Through the General Manager, the interpretation and application of the policy by staff involved in this area is in accordance with the criteria in there. And there have been, I should say, most times the events happen in one billing period, and therefore the policy's satisfactory. There have been some occasions where it has, for various different reasons, and their circumstances usually unique to that particular issue, where it's extended over 2 periods and people have asked for additional relief. That's always considered on a case-by-case merits-based process based around the concept of when was the leak apparent from them, when did they take action to do, what was it, where was it, and in circumstances then there's been a reasonable and fair amount that it's been allowed to. So it will be extended over those periods if the circumstances warrant it. But it's very rare that that occurs, and it's usually done by reference or referral of the issue to escalated up the chain to determine it. It's not by where staff determine it in accordance with the policy.
Madam Mayor, I would like to move an amendment, which will be on screen, that this matter go back to the policy working group for reconsideration to address concerns regarding leaks across multiple billing periods. I believe that this is a concern out there in the community that I've had raised to me before, that we should be have a policy on this, a revised policy on this that takes into account that it can happen to people where there is a leak that occurs over 2 billing cycles, and it should be considered as one event. And if it happens to be over 2 billing cycles, it should be considered on both bills.
Oops, put the light on. That's the motion that you just moved there in front of us on the screen, Councillor Howard.
Yes, it is, Mayor. Thank you.
So that is an amendment, which is fine. So I just need I can do 2 things. I can ask the mover and seconder if they were happy to change it, or...
Thank you. I think I'll allow Councillor Howard to move it as an amendment.
Yep, okay. In which case, a seconder for that amendment, please, is Councillor Graham. Thank you. And speak to your amendment, please, Councillor Howard.
Oh, I think I have, Mayor.
I think you have too.
I think I have. I think I have. I think it should be. I simply think that this should be the revised policy. And I'm sorry, I don't have the confidential attachment, the attachment up in front of me at the moment. But it said that it is only a once every 10 year. You can only have it considered on one bill every 10 years for one event over on that particular property. Now, if it does fall over 2 billing cycles, one event, it should be considered as one event, and whether it falls on 1 billing cycle or falls on 2 billing cycles, it should make absolutely no difference, because the landowner doesn't determine when their billing cycle is.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Graham? No? Anyone else want to speak to it? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I heard the Director's answer, and my understanding of the Director's answer is that whilst not strictly following the policy, there's escalation procedures, and it is dealt with on a case-by-case basis, so staff deal with it. So I'm not convinced that this is a problem that is not already dealt with, but it's probably best to have it covered in the policy, and I have no problem taking it back to the policy working group. That's fine. I'll be voting for that.
And someone else had their hand up. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through the General Manager to the Director of Infrastructure and Engineering. How often are the meters read? Is it just before a billing cycle?
They're generally read every quarter, so around every sort of 90 days.
Okay.
Would be the reading cycle. So in probably 95%, maybe more, of cases where there's a leak that's detected through the billing cycles, that would happen in one cycle. It's rare that we get an event that actually occurs outside of that, which is why we've been able to deal with those through the escalation processes. The concept within the guidelines around 1 every 10 years is so that we're not doing repetitive leaks from that, because we generally encourage those people, if they've got a leak, there's a reason. Most commonly, it's a result of the age of the infrastructure within their property, and we do encourage them to consider replacing water services. In saying that, a general practice is if they have a follow-up leak and it causes a greater bill, then we'll effectively offset the original allowance that they've been given and apply it to the greater bill, so that they're still, there's some level of dispensation for that, and they're not knocked out entirely, but they're effectively not getting any greater level. They're still only getting one reduction.
Okay, so the meter's read once a quarter. How long between the meter read and the bill gets issued?
They're generally fairly quickly, because we run constant billing, so we're cycling within the same week, unless there's an issue that has delayed the issuing the bills either between us or our mailing house. But generally, we'd be issuing I'd estimate we'd issue them about the week after the meters are read.
Even quicker if it's electronic.
We do handle it all electronic, so it goes from us to the billing house, and then the billing house is where the manual process happens, and they're printed and distributed.
Are you aware of any, sorry, this sounds like I'm prosecuting you, but are you aware of any events that have been escalated that warranted a consideration over 2 billing cycles?
Yeah, in the last 8 years, just off the top of my head, I think there's probably about 2.
Yeah, I could answer that further. I'm aware of one, and we provided relief to the larger bill.
Yep.
The claim came in for the initial bill, and then subsequently we were made aware of the second bill, and we made $0.01 was the relief would have applied to the second bill, so the bigger discount. It's important to note, though, that we charge for water, and the purpose of the concealed leak policy is to ensure that concealed leaks are rectified, and we do provide relief. We're quite generous in that relief. Not all local water utilities provide the relief that we do provide. We're quite generous with that.
In particular, like the areas where it's additional is things where there's natural disasters, and that's impacted the bills, and it can be proven to be impacted, or where there's unexplained high usage. Again, there's a dispensation associated with that as well, which is way over and above what you would typically see around there. But yeah, it's rare that it would happen that one leak occurs over 2 billing cycles.
And councils would be aware, following the natural disaster of last year, we put a report up to the May Council meeting that provided that dispensation, so community members can apply more than once over the 10-year period if the concealed leak was a result of the flood.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we've got an amendment calling for it to go back to the policy working group. Alan, you wish to speak to it? Sorry, Councillor Tickle.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly. Look, I did second Councillor Miller pro forma. I was aware of what Councillor Howard have in mind, and I do support that. I think what's been elaborated by the staff is here's how they're conducting themselves operationally, but it's important that our policy actually matches what is now happening operationally. And at the moment, I suggest that it's not. I commend staff for the way they're dealing with these matters, but what Councillor Howard has in mind, let's tidy this up. Let's look at those exceptional circumstances so that the policy in place actually gives the staff the authority and delegation to carry out what is currently a very good practice. Thank you, Mayor.
So technically we're going beyond it. So the motion is to return it to the policy working group, so we don't have to make any decisions on the substance right now, and we don't have to debate the substance. So I'm going to put the amendment to the vote. So all those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand. A question? Okay.
To Mr. Scott, through the General Manager, on page 3 of the policy, page 81 of the attachments, there's a heading, additional considerations for properties with smart water meters. Council will use available consumption data. And I'm wondering whether, because at the moment the meters are read 3 monthly by a person, by an analogue thing. Once smart water meters are implemented in any sort of number, how often consumption data would actually be compiled and read, or read and compiled, I mean.
For the benefit of that, we'd only be effectively reading them once a quarter. However, the system involving smart meters would have inbuilt triggers in it where when readings exceed a certain amount or where there's consistent water use between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., which is typically where there's no other water use, what we would then do is trigger a potential for a leak. So we would ultimately potentially be able to identify from the usage data when the leak actually started, and therefore be able to provide a good estimate of what sort of water usage the leak has allowed, and we'd use that in the analysis.
Thank you. So I'm going to go.
Generally, that wouldn't. Where we have smart meters, one of the intentions of having smart meters is to avoid having concealed leak applications by early identification and rectification before there's an excessive bill associated with it. So most properties wouldn't be eligible for a rebate if they respond quickly to what's been identified for smart metering.
Right. You've probably just answered my next question, which is, so council would at that time notify the user of the excess water usage, but would they have control in any way of the supply of water to that residence?
Not from there wouldn't be plans to restrict it unless we had no response from someone at the property and we couldn't locate the owners, and therefore we might leave a card and turn the meter off and say, hey, your meter's been turned off because we suspect there's a leak in your property and we don't want you to have a big bill. Which ultimately is something that our manual meter reading processes go through as well when they can't knock on the door and say to the resident or leave a card saying, we think you've got a leak and you should have a look at it before your bill gets large.
Did you wish to speak against it now, Councillor Beasley? No?
No.
No. All right. We'll go back to the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand. Thank you. And against? One councillor voted against. The amendment is carried. Sorry? Yeah. So the next step here is that the amendment becomes the motion. So I'm going to put that on anyone who hasn't spoken against it. Does anyone else want to speak on it? We're going to go straight to a vote. There's also a right of reply. That was Councillor Miller. No, I'm going to put that the amendment becomes the motion. So, all in favour of it? Yes, you have to do it twice. Okay. Okay, that was a unanimous vote for the amendment, which then became the motion. So it is passed. Thank you. So we've done the rest of the policies.
17, 13.
Yes, 13, 17, 13 is the matters before the court. Director.
The purpose of this report is to both list and provide an update on all the matters that are currently before the various courts.
Thank you. I need a mover for this one, please. Councillor Turnbull.
I move that the report be noted.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Beasley. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Turnbull? No. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Beasley? Anything else? No. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Thank you, everybody. And that gets us to the end of those papers. Double check. Yep. Number 19.7 is questions with notice by Councillor Miller, and they relate to mobile phone coverage, and the answers to those and traffic statistics on Allbar Road. The answers to those are published in the report for anyone who wants to have a look. Move to item 20.1, which is a notice of motion from Councillor Mackenzie, and I can report that this morning Councillor Mackenzie withdrew that motion formally. We don't discuss that one. 20.2 is a notice of motion from Councillor Graham. So I'll call on you, Councillor Graham, to move your motion. And I believe you've made some small changes.
As just the orders, if we get the note takers to bring that up on the screen, that'd be great. Yep. Okay, I'd like to move that Council 1 note increasing community concern regarding the use of glyphosate-based herbicides in public spaces and the importance of minimising potential environmental and public health risks where practicable. 2, undertake a review of Council's current use of glyphosate across all Council-managed land and operations, including parks, gardens, playgrounds, sporting fields, roadsides, cemeteries, drains and open space areas. And 3, receive a report within 6 months addressing A, the volume and locations of glyphosate use by Mid-Coast Council and contractors.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is the original motion.
It is the original, yeah.
Do we have the amended one? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
the same
Sorry.
except for F. So
yes, it hasn't changed yet.
Okay, so B, current policies, procedures and risk controls governing herbicide application. C, available alternatives to glyphosate, including mechanical, thermal, steam, organic and integrated weed management methods. D, the financial, operational, environmental and staffing implications of transitioning away from glyphosate use. And E, examples of other New South Wales councils that have reduced or phased out glyphosate use. Point 4, pending the outcome of the review, immediately prioritise reducing or eliminating glyphosate use in high sensitivity locations, including playgrounds, childcare, school adjacent land, sporting fields, picnic and recreational areas, waterways and drains. Point 5, investigate external funding opportunities, pilot programs and regional collaborations that may support alternative weed management practices. And finally, point 6, develop a public transition plan, including a community communication and reporting mechanisms to support the progressive adoption of safer and more sustainable weed management methods across Mid-Coast Council, and provide recommendations for a stage reduction and eventual discontinuation of glyphosate use where feasible.
Thank you. So I'm just going to query it because 6 is calling for develop a public transition plan. I thought you were going to make that subject to the, pending the outcome of the review as well.
Because the way that it's, sorry for just interrupt, Madam Mayor. So the way that it's drafted, we're providing a report within 6 months addressing A to E, but we still need to develop a public transition plan, but they'll be dependent upon the review that's undertaken earlier. So it's asking us to do both at the moment. So suggestion is for item 6, subject to
The same words.
pending the outcome of the review, develop.
Yeah. And I only raised that because I thought that's what you were going to do. Yeah. So the same words at the beginning of item 5. Thanks, guys.
Pending.
Yep. Pending or subject to
review.
Yep.
Minute takers.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Subject to whatever. No. Okay.
Sorry, it's just
Be consistent. That's fine.
support you.
And it's going in 5. Excellent. All right. Thank you for that, Councillor Graham. So we need a seconder for that. So Councillor Miller is going to second that. Excellent. Now, would you like to speak to it, Councillor Graham?
Certainly would. Thank you. So today I want to argue that Mid-Coast Council should reduce and potentially phase out the use of glyphosate on council managed land. And I want to argue from a libertarian point of view. Because at its core, libertarianism is about property rights, individual responsibility, informed consent and preventing harm to others. I believe glyphosate use by council potentially violates all 4. When government sprays herbicides in public spaces, parks, footpaths, drains, playgrounds, sporting fields, residents are exposed whether they consent or not. Families walking their dogs, children playing on grass, people gardening beside council land, none of them signed up to absorb chemical residues because the council decided it was convenient. Libertarians believe people own their bodies and their property. That principle means government should not impose avoidable chemical exposure onto the public simply because it is administratively efficient. If a private company spray chemicals onto your fence line without permission, or drifted into your vegetable garden, or contaminated your water runoff, we would call that trespass. Yet, when councils do essentially the same thing, we call it weed management. Government should not receive a moral exemption from standards that apply to everyone else. Now, some will say glyphosate is approved by regulators, but Libertarians are rightly sceptical of concentrated bureaucratic power and regulatory capture. Approval by some sort of authority is not the same thing as community consent or guaranteed safety. History is full of products once declared safe by experts: asbestos, leaded petrol, DDT, the list goes on, until ordinary people paid the price years later. A libertarian approach follows the precautionary principle, and the government itself is the actor imposing risk. If individuals choose to use glyphosate on their own private property, that's their decision and responsibility. But council land belongs collectively to ratepayers. Government should therefore operate to a higher standard, not a lower one. There's also a financial argument. Councils often defend glyphosate use because it's cheap in the short term, but Libertarians understand that governments routinely externalise costs. If spraying contributes to health concerns, environmental degradation, soil damage, biodiversity loss, or water contamination, the public bears these costs later through healthcare expenses, declining ecosystems and remediation. That is not a free market. That is government shifting liabilities onto citizens. I believe a truly responsible council would explore lower risk alternatives, such as mechanical weed removal, steam treatment, mulching, grazing programs, or regenerative land management practices. These methods may require more effort, but liberty and responsibility often do. Small government does not mean careless government. It means restrained government that respects boundaries and avoids unnecessary intrusion into people's lives. Ultimately, this issue is about trust. Across Australia, communities are increasingly frustrated by decisions made without meaningful consultation. Banning glyphosate on council land would send a clear message that Mid Coast Council respects residents' concerns and understands that public land should be managed with caution and accountability. Libertarianism is not blind faith in chemicals, corporations, or bureaucracies. It's a faith in the rights of individuals to live without unnecessary coercion or exposure imposed by state. So today I urge the council to take a principled stand, protect property rights, protect voluntary consent, reduce imposed risks, and phase out glyphosate use across Mid Coast Council land. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, just getting the papers in together. So Councillor Miller, you were the seconder.
I was, thank you, Mayor, and I've never come closer to withdrawing a seconding. So I'm actually going to speak to the notice of motion that's there, not the election campaign we just heard, because I'm not a member of the Libertarian Cabal, but I do think that it's good to have a look at this sort of thing. I take exception. I know we've got a state election coming up, in just under a year, but I hope this doesn't become party politics here at council, because that would be very disappointing. This council has members from various political parties around the table and some independents. I think should all be independents. Everyone should be. Everyone wants to be. But, everyone should be. The best people are. But for the people who are members of parties... And that
wasn't an election campaign.
No, but for the people who are members of parties, we've always managed to leave our party membership at the door. And I think in local government that is really important. And as we get closer to the state election campaign, I really hope we don't have a lot of party political stuff. So I object to some of the wordings in Councillor Graham, saying that council can decide it's convenient and that council should, thinks it should be exempt from moral standards. And I object to some of that wording. So what I'm going to focus on is actually the notice of motion that's here on paper in front of us, with those slight revisions that we've made. I agree with Councillor Graham that there has been community concern. I've heard it at community conversations and other places about the use of glyphosate. And so we should look at it. I think that's great, and I thank Councillor Graham for bringing the notice on that basis. And I agree that we undertake a review of the use of glyphosate. Now, there are other alternatives. There will be pros and cons from those alternatives, and that's what will be covered in that report. And then, yes, parts 4, 5 and 6, well, that pens the outcome of the report and which way we want to go from there. So I think it's a good thing that we look at the use of glyphosate. I think that does address community concerns, but I'm less sure about the rest of the stuff that was in the speech.
Thank you. Councillor Tickle.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll start by asking, notwithstanding there's going to be a report, I've got 3 questions, if I may, to ask the General Manager. And I guess if it's okay, I've asked all 3 together, he'd probably cover it with one response, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, just wait. I prefer you concentrate on whether or not the motion is to whether or not to send this back to the policy working group. I'd prefer you to concentrate on that.
No, this is future report.
A future report, I beg your pardon. Beg your pardon.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Look,
So,
let's start. Sorry. I'm one motion behind in my brain.
That's okay. You wish me to just give the whole three questions and allow the general manager to respond before I do speak, or you want me to go one question at a time? Okay.
Yep, do it that way.
Okay, so the first question is to the general manager or to whom he may delegate for response. Describe the training and OH&S and public risk-related management in the use of herbicides such as glyphosate or specific target herbicides. 2, notwithstanding that glyphosate has been cleared for use around the world, including Australia, if council was of a mind to ban or restrict its use, what would be the challenges in managing vegetation across the vast area that is Mid Coast Council, given that steam pressure or plant-based herbicides such as pelargonic acid only kill that part of the plant that it contacts and does not destroy the plant roots? 3, is there a case for the use of pelargonic acid or portable steam applicators around form gardens in CBD or other areas of high public traffic? And has or will this be considered? And after the general manager's response, I'd like to speak briefly, Mayor.
Yeah, so it touches on two parts of our operations. It's the roadside spraying, and it also applies to our parks and reserves. So I'm not sure whether Liam or Rob want to take that.
We can probably, and it probably also hits into our natural systems teams who are responsible for managing some of our really sensitive environments. But from a roadside spraying perspective, I can comment that most of the work is done by authorised contractors, that's their business, that's what their business does. There is a minimum requirement around operator training for the ChemCert application. There's a detailed process, and there's also records kept of all of the elements that cover off on our work in WHS responsibilities, the risk factors associated with that. In roads in particular, a lot of work is done at night or late times so that we avoid wind, minimise spray drift and those sorts of factors. And probably the big thing in relation to using alternatives with that is the potential for either treatments have to be repeated and followed up in order to increase the effectiveness, or generally done at more frequent intervals to get the same result from that. So obviously the net impact with that would be an additional budget requirement to get to the same result, or acceptance of a lower service standard associated with it.
Thank you.
Hang on, Councillor.
I was just going to say, from a public spaces perspective, Rob's already touched on the training requirements. So it is a regulated industry, and all staff using chemicals, and there are a significant number of operational staff in my area that use chemicals to treat weeds and pests generally in public spaces. They all have different risks, different levels of risk, and staff are aware of the risks and manage those risks accordingly.
There's also comments with respect to natural systems.
Yep. So in the natural systems space, the trend continues. All staff are trained. They look at noxious weeds right across the landscape. So the same levels of training apply to them as well. I think the real issue from my perspective, putting on my corporate services hat, is additional budget that would be required to shift from glyphosate to other means of weed control, not only along roadsides but also within parks and gardens. And at this point in time, we would need to find the money if we were to move to some of these other options, because it will be a substantially increased cost.
Thank you, Mayor. May I now speak against the motion?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to speak against the motion, but doesn't necessarily mean that I'll listen to the debate. It doesn't mean to say which way I'm going to vote at this stage. Look, I guess part of my concern is if you cast back to the court case in the United States where there was action taken against a supplier of the glyphosate, get it out correctly, and it was found that by the jury in the US that there may have been a contributing factor to Huntington's career for that individual, and there was a massive damages award given to that person. But the evidence showed that that particular person was operating the spray in bulk There were times it was operating in times of wind where it was blowing over his face. There were times when his clothing was totally saturated. And the finding throughout the world was that when glyphosate was used according to manufacturers' instructions, it did not pose the risk that many of the public currently fear is the case. So around the world, inquiries could not support that it causes cancer and could not support a ban by regulators, and that is the case currently in Australia. So the problem that council would have in this case, we demand a certain standard of staff as far as and contractors in how we present our area in terms of weed control. We have an expectations that when you look at around roads, that having weed control and stopping vegetation come up in areas you don't want, the impact it has on drains and so on. We expect a standard. But if we don't equip the staff, it's going to be very hard for them to carry out the task imposed upon them. So while the report asks for facts and recommendations, I think it needs to be really understood that we've got to be realistic here, that we don't bite our nose off in trying to get an outcome that won't be possible unless we use what we're currently doing in the right way. The critical thing is around manufacturers' recommendation of safe work practices. There's a strong OH&S regime within council that for those who have attended ARIC, there's questioning, there's benchmarks, there's KPI, there's risk management around how staff operate in that space, and that is done so. The director has already pointed out that they're using professional staff who specialise in this area when it comes to spraying. They have strict OH&S requirements, and we also have strict public risk compliance requirements around the use of herbicides. So I think while the report will bring facts before us to consider and making a decision, I think we've got to be realistic that unless there's an alternative to the current use of, let's call it Roundup or similar, we are really caught between a rock and a hard place. I'll close by giving an example of the Vietnam War, the impact of Agent Orange, because it's very similar to this particular chemical, glyphosate. Agent Orange is made up of two prime chemicals, 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, and it was sprayed with telling effect to defoliate areas of Vietnam, which made hiding and camouflage somewhat difficult. But it caused, because of soldiers and personnel and citizens for that matter, having it over their clothing, inhaling it, it was shown to cause cancer. However, right now, that same chemical is available over the counter in many stores, made up of, it's basically blackberry tree poison that you mix with kerosene. It is used now every day without impact because it's used properly. It's no different with this particular chemical. So we'll wait for the report and give a decision on that, but we need to be realistic. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Turnbull.
Yes, I am looking forward to the report. I think we may be assuming some outcomes, so I'm looking forward to the report. But I am all for more natural options and support this motion. And look, they say they're safe and effective. You hear that a lot, but honestly, I don't trust them. Organisations do not come forward with, hey, our product is bad. They continue to sell it because profit is more important than health and safety. And we've seen this time and time again. Asbestos in talcum powder giving kids cancer to our kids, BPA in plastic, formaldehyde, apologies, I can never say that. The safety data sheets say that glyphosate and the surfactants that are used is toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. The amount of rain that we get and the floods is not just directed at things like ponds, rivers, lakes and dams. The World Health Organization actually lists Roundup as a group 2A carcinogen, which is probably carcinogenic. Probably. Court cases uncovered internal documents, and they're known as the Monsanto papers, showing ghostwriting of scientific papers, interference with publication processes, and undue influence on regulators. So they wrote the research papers, then they got someone else to sign it. Multiple juries have found Monsanto liable for failing to warn about cancer risks, and billions of dollars have been awarded or settled in civil cases. Not thousands, not millions, thousands of millions. Almost $11 billion has been paid to 100,000 claims. Over $7 billion is put aside for current and future claims. The Roundup litigation is one of the largest product liability cases in history, and risks exist with long-term exposure, repeated use, specific formulations, especially the surfactants. So there's a lot more out there, and the organisation spends a lot of money on telling the public that it's safe and effective. When you kind of scratch the surface, it maybe isn't. Because safe and effective really seems more like a marketing tagline than the truth. And I just feel like if we can do better, we should. Should we be looking at ground covers? Should we be looking at vinegar and salt? Like, there are other options that we could look into. So this is just asking for a report. I know that there are other councils that don't use glyphosate or Roundup, so checking in with them. And yeah, I'd love to see if there are other options, because this is not a great product and I do not support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Howard.
I just have a question for the relevant directors. And I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's all three. In true federal parliament style, are we aware of any alternate policies? Are there any other council areas we know that have banned glyphosate in a comparable LGA size as we are? I'm not talking about a 10 square kilometre city, posh LGA where, at the end of the day, they can get away without using glyphosate. Are we aware of any regionals like us where glyphosate has been banned, and what are they using in place of it?
Given that that's one of the questions that the report needs to address, can we wait until the report? Thank you. All right. Anything else on this one? Councillor Beasley.
As an independent member of the Libertarian Party,
Let's not go there, people.
Amongst other parties, this particular issue was brought to my attention by a fellow councillor after complaints by a member of the public earlier this year. So I asked a question about usage and cost to council of these sorts of products. I didn't ask specifically about glyphosate use. So I look forward to being able to support Councillor Graham's formalisation of the question that I was asking at the time. Councillor Turnbull did mention asbestos, and it is one of those cases where the effects of asbestos was only really noticed by workers suffering from mesothelioma, and they were indeed covered by the material at the time. Our treatment now of asbestos is completely different. So we are much more careful about it. We're careful in our homes. I grew up, of course, in fibro homes, but they were well painted, and I'm still here to tell the tale. So it's not always going to be a killer, but we are here as councillors to manage risk, and we're at the top of that pile. Councillor Graham's motion to this council is just asking that we find out some more about it, so I support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you. I'm eager to get to the motion. No, it's not going to work, is it? Councillor Irving? Councillor Irving?
I've just got a question for the Director of Public Spaces. So it's well known to be killing bees and amphibians all around the world at Roundup. So I was just wondering what type of glyphosates are being used on council, whether they are...
I'm going to say the same thing. Can we
friendly?
leave for the report to come back?
But it doesn't actually ask that question in the report.
I'm sure
in the report doesn't actually ask that question. In the
okay. Yeah. Answer the question, however, can answer the question.
I can't answer exactly what we're using at the moment, but we do use Roundup Bioactive, which is known to not kill amphibians around waterways. So.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, the other one that's come
At
up
least you're the
often
last.
is Weedmaster Duo.
Thank you, Mayor. It's interesting how this goes across all staff. However, I'm curious, how does council conduct reviews on its practices, products used in WHS practices? I mean, it's a regulated industry. Do we just rely on the standards or do we question it further?
Through the General Manager, we absolutely rely on the standards. It's essentially the way our industry works. Our safe work practices are standardised. They are really pretty much across all councils. And we rely on the information that comes from obviously manufacturer specifications and guidelines.
Okay, thank you. So I think this motion goes to the heart of council's processes and understanding of the products and their use. So it's kind of implying that council and staff do not have the capability. And I struggle with how the motion is worded and spoken to. It suggests the council is being reckless, and we need to cater for that by removing glyphosate-based herbicides. Suggesting similarities of spraying toxins on people's private property increases community concern and alarm, which is unwarranted. Examples used and being raised in the community are where there has been gross misconduct in the use of the product, as in anything. And we know asbestos can be managed safely. I have a fundamental problem with this motion.
Thank you. All right, I think that gets through all the speaking, unless you want right or reply, Councillor Graham.
All righty. Yes, in response to Councillor Miller, no, this is not to do with the state election. This is to do with the community safety. Quite a few members of the community are upset with the level of spraying, and hence why this motion has come about. I did run on the Libertarian platform. There's no hiding that, or that's well-known fact. 24% of the population voted for me for that matter. So I'd just like to just make some closing remarks about this. And ultimately, this is about the kind of future we want for our communities and legacy we want to leave for the next generation. The people of Mid-Coast value clean waterways, healthy public spaces, thriving ecosystems, and safe environments for families and children. Look, they expect their council to act responsibly and proactively when legitimate environmental health concerns are raised. I'm not suggesting that weed management is simple, that alternatives can be implemented overnight, but continuing to rely heavily on glyphosate simply because it's been the standard practice of many years is not on its own, I believe, sufficient reason to avoid change. Councils everywhere are being challenged to think differently about sustainability, land management, public health. I have quite a few examples of those councils around Australia that have actually banned or are implementing it. There's a few in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, Western Australia. There's quite a number. But also another thing that we could do is have a no spray register. Allows residents that are not happy with that to opt out of chemical weed control. A staged transition away from glyphosate use is a practical and responsible step. That allows those councils to review the evidence, identify some workable alternatives and protect our sensitive areas first. Most importantly, it sends a clear message that we take environmental stewardship seriously and we're willing to adopt safer and more sustainable practices. So if there are safe ways to manage weeds while still maintaining our public places effectively, I think that we have a responsibility to investigate them properly and act where we can.
Thank you very much. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour. So this is the one that was up on the screen before. All in favour, raise your hands. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those against? I didn't have to do that, did I? 3 against. 3 against and the remaining 4, so it's carried. And I look forward to the debate when it comes back to council. Yes, over here, the 3 against, over here. All right, thank you for that, everybody. Now that gets us to notice of motion 20.3. This is yours, Councillor Beasley.
I somewhat informally withdrew my motion after discussion with councillors this morning and informed the General Manager at the time.
Yes, okay, so it has been withdrawn. Thank you. So that gets us to urgent business. Is there any urgent business that can't wait until next month?
Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3. Go the Blues.
Yes, very urgent. All right, thank you. So that gets us to the end at, is that 3:43? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff.